Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations looking for the 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we go through the 21st century. And as we add 2 billion new people to the planet and we rapidly urbanize between now and 2050, one of the topics that we need to really deal with is this of energy and fuel. As you know, there are many nations like India and China, South Africa, Russia. They're adding just a great number of vehicles to the roadways, and the developed nations are continuing to expand at the same time. But how do we actually fuel these vehicles in a way that's environmentally sound and also that will actually stop or maybe even reverse the negative impact of the greenhouse gases on our environment? So, and we have someone who's been working on this topic for a number of years, has formed a nonprofit and addressing it. It's called the Advanced Biofuels USA. It's Joanne Ivanchik, who is the executive director, and she's going to be coming in to us actually by Skype, but by telephone, and we're going to have her photograph here in just a minute. But Joanne, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
There you go. We got your wonderful photograph there, and we're going to be showing your slides here in just a minute. But Joanne, tell us, what is the Advanced Biofuels USA?
We're a nonprofit educational organization dedicated to promoting understanding, development, and use of advanced biofuels, not just in the U.S., all around the world.
Well, I tell you, it's wonderful to have that and actually to be in the Washington, D.C. area, so you're really in a very advantageous location to have such an organization. And so looking at advanced biofuels, just what does that mean?
One concept is what you were sort of talking about, is sustainability. We are, because that concept and the concept of greenhouse gas emissions analysis go together. A quick definition would be liquid fuels that are usually used for transportation, that are derived from low nutrient input, high yield crops, agricultural or forestry waste or residues, and other sustainable biomass feedstocks such as algae, which a lot of people have heard of.
Well, I know that this is something that's very important because some of the debate has been about using valuable croplands and diverting actually feedstock into fuel. And of course, many people do not think that's actually a very sustainable way of doing it. But I know that the emphasis of advanced biofuels is that you really focus on using biomass, the waste of that, in order to produce the fuel. So why is it important to have biofuels?
Well, biofuels are important because we're just going to run out of fossil fuels. And not only are we going to run out of them, but they are greenhouse gas emitters from wheel to, or from mine to wheel. When we're talking advanced biofuels, we're always looking at the analysis from seed to wheel. So you're looking at the whole picture. Another reason is they're getting harder and more expensive and more dangerous to extract. The other thing to think about is that we don't use oil to make electricity in this country for the most part. And windmills and solar and things like that can produce electricity renewably, but they're not going to be able to power airplanes. They're not going to be able to power jets. So those are two, I think, good reasons that we really need to look seriously at finding renewable alternatives.
Well, looking at the renewables, and I know that we're talking about really about 37% of the energy that we import in the United States goes for transportation and then many other uses. And I think what you're talking about is using the advanced biofuels is really going into passenger vehicles, light trucks, farm equipment, many other smaller use, but now even over-the-road tractor and trailers are using some of the biofuels. How do you see that advancing over the time that Advanced Biofuels as an organization has been in existence?
We started in 2008. We were working in 2007 on Capitol Hill when that Farm Bill was being discussed and some of the energy parts of that, as well as the Energy Act. What we realized there was that people didn't know that there was anything other than corn ethanol as a transportation fuel. So we decided that we needed to educate them and most of the rest of the world to expand their concept of what we could be making fuel out of.
Well, I have this extensive list that you shared with us for the television program, and it is indeed extensive. As I mentioned to you, I have William S. Busker, who is the Executive Vice President for Emerald Planet. He's sitting right beside me, and he's here in case we lose you by Skype, Joanne. But I'm going to let him ask the next question.
Hi, Joanne.
Hello.
What are advanced biofuels made from and how?
At the moment, again, with that definition of advanced biofuels, we're not making them commercially except for biodiesel. If you look at a greenhouse gas analysis comparing biodiesel to how it compares to petroleum fuels, you get a 50% better fewer greenhouse gas emissions over the whole analysis. And we are using that now, as you said, in trucks, farm equipment, things like that. But when you look at advanced ethanol, we're not there yet. There's something called biomass recalcitrant that is, we thought we were going to be able to make advanced ethanols just as easily as we know how to make corn ethanol. Corn ethanol we've been making for, 8,000 years. We've been making moonshine for a long time. We haven't been making ethanol out of the rest of the plant, out of the stalks, out of the corn cobs, out of grasses, things like that. And the research on that is a little bit more difficult than what anybody expected.
Well, looking at your association, Advanced Biofuels, I know that you've been working with policymakers, elected officials, even the general public. What kind of recommendations do you have for all these different groups, not only in the United States, but around the globe, so that you can really advance the biofuel so it's more easily available and at a price that people can actually afford?
I think you hit on a really important concept, a price people can afford. Right now, ethanol is helping to keep down the price of gas at the pump. 10% in most places in the U.S. is already ethanol. And it is on retail so much cheaper than the petroleum. And it provides octane and oxygenate, which helps, it makes it a cleaner burning fuel. And that, if you had to do that with petroleum chemicals, would be much more expensive. So I think one thing is to make people understand that with advanced biofuels, with ethanol, they are getting a deal. That is making our fuel affordable. When we talk about biomass recalcitrants and trying to get the sugars and the fuel out of the other parts of the plant, we also can talk about policymaker and investor recalcitrants. There just isn't the understanding of this, which is why our organization exists, to give people a deeper level of information. The other issue is big oil is jealously guarding its market share and is going to fight anybody taking even a drop of the market share that it has. So they have a whole lot more resources to lobby the decision makers, lobby the legislators, and talk to the public than we have. So those are, I think, the three things that are in our way now, is really needing to do more research on transitions, on conversion technologies, being able to get fuel stations to put in blender pumps so that you have an option. You can, if your car can take is a flex fuel vehicle, it can take higher ethanol blends, and if you can buy that for less than you can buy your regular gasoline, then you should have the choice to do that. But if you have franchise agreements and things like that, you're sometimes stuck.
Well, looking at the two photos that we have here, one is about the flex fuel vehicles, and as you're aware, Joanne, in the country of Brazil, over 90% of all the vehicles on the roadways there are flex fuels, and some of them can take up to 5 different fuels within the same vehicle. And then, of course, the United States military is the largest consumer of fuel in the entire world, and it's actually very advanced as far as looking into biofuels and how to bring that really to the market, because it's to advantage of the military to have this across the broad society to lower the cost. So looking at the flex fuel engines and in the military, what do you see for the future of biofuels with these two different drivers?
You're absolutely right. The Defense Department, particularly the Navy, has been way at the front of the parade on this. They understand the military flexibility issues, that we don't have much leverage if what we decide to do is restrained by where we're getting our fuel. If we get our fuel homegrown, if we can get our fuel in places around the world that are don't have policies contrary to ours, then we're going to be a whole lot better off.
Joanne, we're going to lose you. We're about ready to end this segment. Thank you for being with us. Joanne Vanishik, who is the Executive Director of Advanced Biofuels USA, located near Washington, D.C. in the United States. And we'd like to thank you for being with us as we look at the various ways of developing new biofuels out of biomass and other alternatives to produce fuel as we create the Emerald Planet.
There's more than just books at the library.
There's more than just books at the library.
Excuse me.
There's more than just books at the library.
Il n'y a plus que de livres à la bibliothèque.
Hello. You have a lot of great books here today. You know there's more than just books at the library.
I know.
There's more than just books at the library.
I don't want to be hooked to a machine.
I want all the medical treatment available to me.
I wouldn't want my family to have to make this decision.
My doctor knows what's best for me.
An advance directive is your life on your terms. Talk with your family. Decide what's right for you. Then put it in writing.
Documenting my wishes today means my family won't have to make heart-wrenching decisions later.
To learn more, visit www.putitinwriting.org.
1,200 American youth run away from their homes every day. The National Runaway Switchboard is here to help. 1-800-RUNAWAY. If you are a runaway, thinking about running away from home, or a parent or guardian concerned about issues facing your child, Call us 24 hours a day. 1-800-RUNAWAY. In times of crisis, hope is just a phone call.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for the 1,000 best practices, the technologies, services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we address the issues as we move towards 2050, when we'll have 9 billion people on the planet, how we're going to be able to feed and clothe and shelter, provide all the basic infrastructure, but also to provide the transportation that's going to be needed, because many of the natural resources that we need coming from farms and fields and forests will have to be coming from longer distance, as almost over 80% of the people will be living in very large urban areas. And so how are we going to be able to transport all that? We have a gentleman that's actually actively involved in doing all this, not only just thinking about policy and procedures of producing what's called advanced biofuels, but also actually doing the conversions and producing the product itself. He's also someone who helped create the Advanced Biofuels USA nonprofit. This is Robert E. Kozak, who is the president of Atlantic Biomass Conversions and the treasurer and co-founder of Advanced Biofuels USA. Bob is going to be coming in to us by Skype and voice only, so we'll have there he is, his very handsome face. And Bob, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Oh, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Well, we're glad to have you here. And as I was teasing you earlier, we've been trying to get you on for about 3 years, and it just happened to get you on right now. So tell us a little bit about Atlantic Biomass Conversions, the history of that, and what does it really mean about conversions of biomass?
Right. What we've been involved in for about 8-9 years now are trying to overcome something called biomass recalcitrance, which simply means trying to take plant biomass or woody biomass and releasing the sugars from that could then be used to make biofuels or bioproducts. We're personally involved with an enzyme approach to that, and not only develop enzymes through genetic modification, but also to try to understand the metabolic pathways of how, in fact, was a plant cell wall first made, so we can disassemble it in a quick, efficient manner to compete with our friends who produce oil.
Well, looking at that, we have this, what you call the problem as far as the biofuel sugar and trying to compete with fossil fuels. What is really the issue that you've had as far as trying to compete and to bring about a parity between the cost of the biofuels that being produced and fossil fuels?
Right. What a lot of people forget is, when you see the oil price, like you see today, I think it was about $107 per barrel for 42 gallons of oil. And if you use that just simply to produce gasoline, obviously they use it to produce other things, but that roughly comes out to somewhere around $250 a gallon input. And that's sort of our starting point, because you remember, once you take away all the incentives that are there, we still have to compete on a per price basis. So when you look at how much sugar is needed to make a gallon of ethanol, or how much algae oils are needed to make a gallon of, say, jet fuel, you start noticing that you can only pay around 15 cents a pound for those sugars or oils. And when you start thinking about it, it's like, whoa, that's not very expensive. It's less than the commercial price of sucrose. So you have to take out what you're paying the grower to grow that, to grow whatever the biomass is, plus your conversion process. So when you look at this, it's a heck of a hard, there's a real challenge there that hasn't really been addressed much. When you look at some of the developments that's happened, for instance, on jet fuels, there's about 3 or 4 different processes to take sugars or oils and convert them into the final fuel. But there really hasn't been a lot done upstream in the process. It's like, well, geez, how can we take a ubiquitous biomass source like some grasses and turn it into the sugars that could be, that could be used? So that's where we see that there's a big barrier out there, and it seems like in the future that's some of the work that we have to really look at.
Well, I tell you, it seems like there are a number of challenges there, but I know you've been working at this for quite some time, Bob, and also with the association, the Advanced Biofuels USA, you've really started to set up a nationwide movement, not only just to affect policy and bring about procedures, but also to bring in a mass consumer base in order to do this. Why is it so important to expand the base and the availability of these advanced biofuels?
Well, obviously, as Joanne was talking about, it's important to get them out there because we are on the downslope of oil availability. You hear a lot that we're supposedly awash in oil, but if we were in fact awash in oil, oil still wouldn't be at $107 barrel as it is right now. And of course, we have to look at the climate change aspects of it. So much of what's happened over 150, 200 years of intense use of hydrocarbons, the so-called collateral damage of rising sea level, changing climate, where we're inundated by, it seems like, floods or fires on us constantly now. Those seem to me reasons enough to want to switch to another form of energy that can be used and can be used effectively in the same way that we're using oil.
Well, looking at this, and I have my good colleague Bill Busker here is going to ask you a question, but I want to do one follow-on question before we leave this, Bob. Looking at this, this comparison of United States, Brazilian land use as far as biofuels, what does that really have to do, and how does that impact both the supply of the biofuels and how does that impact possibly the future of developing these biofuels so that we're having more diversification of the fuel supply across the whole country and actually across the globe?
Right, yeah. What we tried showing in that chart there is when you hear biofuels, you think of the corn ethanol in Midwestern United States, or you think of the large sugarcane plantations in Brazil. And those have thousands of contiguous acres that are devoted to one crop that can produce the sugar or the starch that can be sent into one refinery. But if you look at the reality of what land ownership, we use, for example, if you look at the Mid-Atlantic or Southeast region of the United States, for instance, we have there North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, and Tennessee as examples. You'll see that over 60% of the land, agricultural land, is in farms that are 99 acres or less. And this is the same kind of land use pattern that you see very much in Africa, in large parts of Southeast Asia, and in fact China. And the whole question is, if we're serious about doing something with advanced biofuels, we have to come up with some processes that work with the reality that you aren't going to have 1,000-acre farms that are close to one biorefinery. Instead, you have to come up with some way, how can you transport the biomass that's produced in these smaller, non-contiguous, in some ways really, really distributed land farm plots? How can you come up with a system that would allow you to, process those in a field and then take it to a large, to a really large biorefinery, say 300, 500 miles off. And for us, we see this as the major challenge that has to be overcome, that if you're going to have advanced biofuels throughout the world.
Well, Bill Busker is sitting right beside me. You two gentlemen have met each other in the past, and he's here in case we lose you by Skype. We seem to be doing very well with the technology for this program. So Bill's going to ask the next question.
Hi there. You've talked about ethanol as a biofuel that will continue into the future. Are there any challenges to to including ethanol as a fuel?
Sure. A lot of people denigrate ethanol because they say it's not really good for engines. But in fact, there's two overlooked benefits of ethanol as a fuel. One is it has higher octane, which means that it withstands compression much better than current gasoline. The second one is it has a higher vaporization temperature, which means it can actually cool the engine better. And if you look at these two things together, this is really what's going to be needed as we go forward to meet the improved fuel economy standards. Now, I know for people in Europe, when we talk about higher octane, they go, well, we already have that. We know what you're talking about. But in this country, we do have low octane. But if we want to use these new engines that are coming online, like the Ford EcoBoost engines that have turbocharging, direct injection, they're small displacement. To get the most performance out of those, you're going to need a high octane fuel. And right now, the cheapest way to get to the high octane is in fact through ethanol. In fact, I'd say if you'd ask anybody from an oil refinery and ask them, can they produce 102% octane component of fuel as cheap as ethanol, and they'll tell you they can't. So we think that there's a great future for ethanol based not only upon the fact that it is good for the environment and we should be able to grow it in marginal lands, but the real point is it's a hell of a good performance fuel. And I think what's key to this is, if you notice, Indianapolis 500 races run on E85. American Le Mans GT cars run on E85. Australian V8 racing championship runs on E85. So the point is they're using it for the performance aspects. And as we go forward trying to make the 54 miles per gallon 2022 standard in the United States, this is the kind of fuel that you actually are going to need in your car.
All right, Bob, we only have about 30 seconds left, and we have here, I'm going to leave this chart up about how to produce the biofuels, but what do you see as far as your own organization over, say, the next 5, 10, 15 years, and where we're going? And you have to be quick.
Great. Well, if we get a good funding, an Apollo-type program that's funded by a non-renewable carbon tax, I think that the United States, scientists and engineers in this country, can meet all these challenges, and we'll make going to the moon in 9 years sound easy. If we don't get it, well, those 9 billion people are getting a hard time.
Well, Robert E. Kozak is president of Atlantic Biomass Conversions and also the treasurer and co-founder of Advanced Biofuels USA. Thank you for sharing with us about the biofuels, the biomass, as we create the Emerald Planet.
Art, a universal language, an expression of culture, of self. And now, thanks to Empowered Women International, a way for emerging and established immigrant and refugee artists and artisans to find hope to earn a living while enriching the lives of all of us. Empowered Women International, making a better America every day. For more information on Empowered Women International's educational programs, or to make a tax-free donation, contact cfripp at AOL.com.
Here, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty.
You'd think it would be easy to tell which kids have trouble with their eyesight. But that's not always the case. Even though 1 in 4 children may have a vision problem, eye doctors tell us the symptoms aren't always so obvious. We do know that 80% of all childhood learning is visual. And without good vision, kids can have trouble learning to read. and may fall behind in school. For clues on how to spot the real-life signs of childhood vision problems and what parents can do, visit checkyearly.com. A public service message from the Vision Council of America.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we explore how we're taking new technologies forward into the 21st century as we add 2 billion new people to the planet, and also we rapidly urbanize, and so there's greater and greater demands for personal transportation conveniences, but at the same time to be able to produce the electricity and steam that's needed to run the cities. Right now, there's about 54% of the world's population in high-density urban areas, and by 2050, it's expected to be well over 80%. In many countries, like the United States, is already at 80%, and a country like Brazil, which is looked upon as being a huge open area, 87% of the population live in a few urban areas, primarily along the seacoast. And we have someone who's been working at this for some time. Her name is Norma B. Henning. She is the corporate counsel for an organization called the Clean Eco-Energy Technology, CEET. And it has an incredible pedigree because I think you're Swiss, Czech, Slovak, and the U.S., and I don't know how many other countries involved, but Norma, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you, Sam. It's great to be here.
Glad to have you here, and you really have an interesting company, and actually we've been looking for the technologies of taking all this watery biosolids and turning it into energy, so it was great to meet you about that. But tell us about CEET, Clean Eco-Energy Technology. What is the company and a little of the history?
I've been working with them since 2012 now. They're a subsidiary of a Slovakian company called Central European Engineering and Investment, CEEI, and they operate out of Naples, Florida, with the headquarters, but are basically looking for projects all over the United States.
Well, looking at this, the whole thing about eco-energy, what do you consider eco-energy, and then how does that relate to the advanced technologies that CEET represents?
Mm-hmm. The lady you had on earlier was speaking about homegrown energy. We're basically looking at homemade energy in the form of biomass, biosolids actually, that are basically an asset and that can be turned into energy through this hydrocarbonization technology that CEET has.
Well, looking at the biomass, and we're talking about animal, even human, and then biomass of different types is allowed to be turned into energy. And I understand that it needs to be somewhere in 60 to 80% as far as the moisture content is concerned. That's very interesting. You're taking something that has so much water content and yet being able to turn into something that you're calling bee coal or bio coal. So what is this bee coal?
Well, the bee coal, we're still playing with the name because coal seems to be a four-letter word. Basically, it's a substance. It's coal. It's made from carbonizing biomass in a condensed process that takes about 5 hours. You take basically the different biosolids, put them through the apparatus that I think Thomas Ruhal is going to speak about a little bit more, because he's the technician and is a lot more knowledgeable than I. But basically it burns like coal and it stores like coal, it transports like coal, but it's good coal. It doesn't have the same dirty effects, and I think it's a real resource that needs to be tapped into. And for the first time now, through the technology and the processes that were developed in Switzerland by Eva CO2, the company that licenses this technology to us, it is available in commercial application and actually makes financial sense. Because before we had, hydrocarbonization was never a new process. It's an older technology, but now it's basically joined the 21st century and is able to be used in large-scale projects in a profitable way.
Well, this hydrothermal carbonization, I mean, that's a very long, sophisticated term to say you're dehydrating all of this and taking the moisture out of it, and then actually my understanding is that you're purifying the water and it can actually go right back into the aquifer, back into the stream, so you're not polluting the water. But there's millions of tons of both the animal and human waste that is generated every year, so it's in essence like a renewable resource that can be used for producing electricity and steam. So this hydrothermal carbonization, how did the Europeans get involved in this, and why are they now entering the United States as we move through towards 2050?
Well, right now we believe the time is right. A lot of states are passing legislation that make it more difficult to take care of food solids and food waste, and also now they are starting to fine people for not doing it properly. So we believe that those factors have now made the time right. Plus, we have a track record now. We actually have a track record by using this technology in Germany. With 2 plants that are already operating, so that we can now come here and say, look, this is not just an idea, it's a reality.
Well, I think that's really excellent, and I think you know that I have William Busker sitting right beside me. He's the Executive Vice President of Emerald Planet, and since you're coming in by Skype very nicely, we haven't lost you, Norma, I'm going to let him ask the next question.
What's the difference in this technology, and why is its end product called bee coal?
Well, it is a carbonization process that basically carbonizes the mass. I mean, I'm not the technician, as I said. Tomasz is going to speak more about the actual chemical processes that go on. But basically, we take biomass, apply a lot of pressure and a lot of heat, and as though what the Earth did for millions of years in producing fossil coal, and basically condense the process.
Well, looking at how you produce this is actually the interesting part about this. We talk about taking energy, and there are many processes where they're using energy, but it's mostly fossil fuels, and even manufacturing ethanol is taking almost as much energy to produce the product, but you're actually taking your end product to produce the energy to make the next batch as far as the bee coal is concerned. So all you do, in essence, you create the first batch, and then it's renewable from then on, as it seems like your process has developed.
And it can take energy from other sources. I mean, the technology and the processes are compatible with, for example, anaerobic digestion that then produces energy that can be used, for example, to run the process that we have. So it is compatible with other technologies and complements perhaps already existing systems in a way that a municipality or a larger agricultural endeavor would find beneficial for them. And a lot of industries are now feeling the pressure from the public, and I think the American public is also ready for some major changes in the way the corporations and the government treats the environment. And I think that is another reason why I think the time is right, and the technology is not new. So it basically has just grown up.
Well, it's something that's, as they say, the old becomes new. But what companies would benefit by using this bee coal, as you call it? Because I know it comes in pellets, flakes, powders, all different types of forms. And so it could be used, I guess, just about any industry that's trying to produce both electricity and steam.
Well, primarily it's for cement kilns and lime kilns, really. I mean, particularly the product that is made from municipal waste would be most suitable to be used in a cement kiln. But you can also make it in a way that it would replace wood pellets in a residential home for heat production. Then go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that there are many universities. I'm on the board of Longwood University, and they switched to producing 100% of their own energy on campus, and they're using cast-off wood, and so various wood chips and pellets and slabs, and so this is something that actually could be used in that type of environment as far as the heating, but also electricity on campus, because they're self-sufficient in doing all that. What do you see some of the best practices from CEET that's coming out that can be used in other countries around the globe, not just in the United States or in Western Europe?
The best practices that
What best practices are being developed by CEET that can be used in other countries besides the United States and Western Europe?
Well, basically to take the already existing waste product that is a huge problem and turn it into an asset. And I think, if we, for example, could change some of the policies in order to let also the financial and investment industry treat this as an asset, for example, to encourage tax investors to invest in these projects, that would be certainly progress. What CET is doing is basically taking an old favorite and making it into a real viable, commercially applicable and economically viable option for municipalities.
Well, I think it's wonderful that you've set up in Florida in the United States to introduce, or in a sense, almost reintroduce this technology and process in the United States. And one of the things that really caught my attention, Norma, is when you're removing this of going into the landfills or putting it on land where actually the effluent then can run into the streams and tributaries. This is one way that if you're producing something that's very viable out of it. We only have about 30 seconds left, Norma. What do you see for the future growth of CEET in the United States?
Well, I think that once we have our first project, and people will see that it's crossed the Atlantic. I mean, we welcome anyone who wants to come and visit us in Europe and see the success of the plant. But I think this is really going to find a lot of takers.
Well, I think so too, and I think the work that you're doing and the way that you're reaching out to actually make sure that everything is properly permitted and working with the local governments, I think that, Norma's very important, and certainly by having you there to work with them and the bridge the Atlantic is really a good thing. But we have Norma V. Henning, who is the corporate counsel of Clean Eco Energy Technology. I just love that name, Norma, Eco Energy. And thank you for sharing with us, and we'll be exploring this more as we create the Emerald Planet.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Well, it's some matches and that's no good. Yeah. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about rooftop money. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches, don't play with fire. Yeah.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire!
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water. At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site. That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff. You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go! Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People! The flood is imminent! Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
Welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from the United States, and I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, and we're looking around the globe in 144 different countries looking for the best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. I have sitting right beside me William S. Busker, who is the Executive Vice President of Emerald Planet, and he's here in case we lose our articulate young man that's coming in from Prague in the Czech Republic. This is Tomas Rohal, who is the Business Development Director for what's called Clean Eco Energy Technology. And Tomas, I know this is kind of really off schedule for you, but thank you for coming in from Prague.
Yeah, good evening from me. Quarter to 2 p.m. Oh, sorry, a.m. in Prague. Waiting for this interesting program, such a long time.
Well, we're glad to have you, and we're intrigued with the technology because it's something that's very old and at the same time it's very new. Tell us a little bit about what is Clean Eco Energy Technology. Give us a little background of the company and why are you coming into the United States, the Western Hemisphere, all the way from the Czech Republic, Slovenia, Switzerland, all these different countries in Europe.
Not Slovenia, but Slovakia, and CEET is a subsidiary of Czechoslovakian company CEEI, based in Bratislava in Slovakia, where mother company is focusing mainly on storage of spent nuclear fuel and low radioactive waste. And over the years, this company interest also developed in other ways, in biomass, organic waste, and what is called waste to energy, but with, as you mentioned, Sam, something which is already old, but also new.
Well, looking at the taking the bio, I know the waste that we have as far as both animal and human waste in a country like the United States. I mean, there's just hundreds of millions of tons that are being produced, and it's a liability in most cases because either it goes to the landfill. There are many communities either can't handle it or just don't want it. But you're taking something that's a liability. Now you're turning it into an asset. And I know you're calling it B-coal or bio-coal. Why the analogy with coal, which really is a four-letter word in to many people's minds?
Yes, the hydrothermal technology, which produces this coal or B-coal or bio-coal product, is converting anything which is what can be labeled organic waste into a coal-like product with this technology which was invented this year. It's 100 years anniversary and put on the market by Swiss company Ava CO2, our partner from Switzerland. It's imitation of fossil coal creation in nature. What took nature a couple of million years in a state like Virginia to produce coal from trees, we can do the same with any organic waste over a couple of hours in hydrothermal carbonization technology made by the Swiss company Ava CO2.
Now, tell us a little bit, Thomas, what is hydrothermal carbonization? That's a very sophisticated term. It has real currency among technology buffs, but what does that mean to the average citizen? Why is that term so important?
It's so important that we can turn any type of waste which are very complicated to disposal, costly and environmentally friendly, into product which can be utilized on the market. As you can see on the slide, one of the big problems in the United States becoming biosolids. This is a new word for what was in the past called sewage sludge. Most of the sewage sludge is land applied as a fertilizer or simply landfilled as a waste and dump it into the hole in the ground. But we can take it, carbonize it, so which means produce a fuel from it and utilize it as a conventional fossil coal, for example, in cement plants. And as we are based in Florida, we've been motivated to came to the United States by the issues in Okeechobee Lake and Myakka River, where the nutrients runoffs from this from the land application of the biosolids causing big environmental problems. Animals are dying in Myakka River, dolphins and seals, but we can simply take it, process it on a very costly and environmentally friendly process and utilize it as a coal.
Well, looking at the challenges, I know that this is a very simple process that's been around for about 100 years. What kind of challenges do you face as a vision of CEET to be able to take this watery animal, human, and biomass waste and turn it into power generation fuel?
So, biggest challenge we have is to bring a first plant in the United States. The technology is proven in Europe, in Germany and Switzerland, but we have many potential clients, but everybody wants to take the second and third and fourth plant, and nobody is interested to be the first customer. But we see progress. We think that we find the first customer, and we are working very hard to convert this potential client into the real business and bring this great technology to United States and help to protect environment and also bring big benefits to the citizens across the United States.
Well, I know that working with the large feedlots in the United States for cattle, horses, also you have the large processors for pork, chickens, and turkeys, and this could be another whole new income stream for some of these very large operations. So it seems like your technology would be well accepted. The gentleman that you met with me, William Busker, is sitting right beside me, the Executive Vice President of Emerald Planet, and since we've been able to keep you on Skype, I'm going to let Bill ask the next question.
What is meant by your concept of bee coal or biocoal? What is the chemical difference, but in particular the environmental differences between fossilized coal and your biocoal?
Almost none. From chemical point of view, it's a fossil coal made in very fast, in a very short time, but from paper point of view or legislation, it's renewable fuel. And big benefit of this, let's say, hybrid fuel is that customers who want to utilize our bee coal, they don't need to spend additional equipment to modify their existing coal systems into the new renewable fuel as wood chips or wood pellets. We offering them a coal, they are burning 10 years or 100 years, but with all the benefits of renewable biofuel.
Well, looking at the CEET, the processes, the technology you have, why is what you're doing better than just what we consider the more older anaerobic digestion process?
We don't want to compete with the anaerobic digestion process, which is great technology, very, very developed in Europe, in countries like Germany, France, also Czech Republic. Czech Republic is a very small country compared to United States. We have 10 million citizens, but there is almost 700 anaerobic digestion plants, mostly at farms. So our HTC can bring synergies to anaerobic digestion, like on food waste processing. So food waste is not very easy to digest on anaerobic digestion plants. You have to add some additional better feedstock like cow manure or corn silage to obtain a higher methane yield. But what will you do with the waste from the anaerobic digestion plant, the digestate? You can produce fertilizer from it to dry the wet feedstock, dry the wet digestate, so which is costly, but we can utilize this waste from the anaerobic digestion plant in our HTC plant and produce a fuel from it. So anaerobic digestion systems, they also bring waste issues at the end, but with our HTC technology, there is non-waste except of the clean water which we are returning back to the nature.
Well, looking at, there are many universities and small communities around the United States and actually around the globe that actually provide municipal steam or electricity for power there. And of course, every budget is now stressed, whether it's in the Western Hemisphere or the Eastern Hemisphere. And so at the same time, we're generating larger and larger amounts of, this biomass through animal and human waste. So how can actually using your B-coal or your bio-coal technology actually reduce the cost to municipalities or university campuses or cement providers, and but increase the revenues and at the same time reduce the need for increased landfills?
Simply saying, we can offer them a lower disposal cost. As an example on biosolids processing, there is a third-party verification from the University of Zurich in Switzerland, which is proving the HTC technology for biosolids processing, saying that energy need is only on 30% of conventional thermal drying of biosolids.
Thomas, we're going to lose you. We're putting up the credits. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
This is Thomas Rahal, who is the Business Development Director of the Clean Eco Energy Technology, coming actually to us by Skype from Prague, the Czech Republic. And Bill Busker sitting right beside me. Bill, thank you for being with us tonight as Bill set in to help us on the Skype. And thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.